Hello and welcome to Social Science Class 7, and today we are going to do democracy, and that would be the end part, so part number 3. So let me quickly repeat what we did in part 1 and part 2. So part 1, if you remember, we studied about how the democratic world developed into what we see today. So there was Bill of Rights, there was universal adult franchise, there was French Revolution, and then they told us about the different systems, the different government systems that we have in the world. So monarchy was there, theocracy was there, dictatorship was there, and of course democracy. In part number 2, we learnt about two democratic systems, and there was one was parliamentary democracy and the second was presidential form of democracy. So parliamentary form of democracy is where the parliament is supreme and the parliament is led by the prime minister of that country, and the prime minister is assisted by his cabinet minister, or you can call council of ministers. Whereas it's just the opposite with the presidential form of government. Their president is elected directly by the people, and he's not part of the legislature. So whatever the bills and the laws have been passed, it is his responsibility, it is his duty to see that those bills and those laws are implemented in the country. So whereas you have in parliamentary form of democracy, there's a beautiful relationship between the executive and the legislature, because the executive is part of the legislature. In the presidential form of government, the executive is not a part of the legislature. So president is United States and parliamentary is UK and India both. So let's see what we have, and also we had the elements of democracy. So how do we know that we are living in a democracy? So if you have economic equality, you have social equality, you have been given the right to vote, you have the opportunity for employment, you have the opportunity and the freedom to speak up. Those are the things that is a must in a democratic world. So this is what we are living in right now, a democratic world, a democratic India. So what do we have in store? And part 3, we are going to finish it today. So as I said in the earlier parts also, it's chapter number 13, and we start from pages 91 and we finish on the page number 94. So the first topic that we have, institutional representation of democracy. So there are few institutions that are there in the democracy that says that, okay, if you have these things, it means it's a democratic world. So the first one that they are talking about is universal adult franchise. In part number, I think there was this part number 1 in democracy, we had learnt about universal adult franchise. So if you remember, there was a time when the voting started, but the voting rights were only given to the rich people. The poor did not get the voting rights, the women did not get, and the slaves did not get. So it took a lot of time for the world to develop into giving universal adult franchise. If I take the example of India, all Indians above the age of 18, whether it's a male or a female, can vote. So that is called your universal adult franchise. So if you have a voting right, this is an institution and it represents a democratic country. Then after you have got the voting rights, you have elections. So if I am 18 and above and I have the right, the elections, whenever they happen, whether it's a state election or a union election. Now remember, if it is a state election, I can only vote if I belong to that state. So if I belong to Delhi, I will have my voting rights in Delhi. I cannot vote in Nagaland state elections. But in India, whenever you have the Lok Sabha elections, I can go in any part of the world, any part of the country, and I can vote. So elections is a part of a democratic, we call it a festival. Then if you have to vote, if you have the right to vote, the third thing is, who do you vote for? So there are times that you have independent candidates, but most of the times you have political parties. So it's the political parties who form the government. It is the political party candidate that you vote for. It is the political party candidate who stands for elections. Now, there are times when you have elections and you're not very sure of, which party or which candidate I should be voting. So sometimes I like this one and sometimes I like that one, but I have to make a decision very, very honestly and using my intellect. But if there are people who vote for one political party and there are others who are voting for a different political parties, and when the result is announced, both of them either get an equal share of vote or it's just a 5 to 10 seats different. So then who wins the election? Who is the majority? Now, when you do not have a majority, how do you form a government? So what happens is then you have coalition government. So coalition government is these two parties who have the same kind of ideology, who believe in the same things, can come up and say, go to the president and say that we are both political parties and we want to run the government and we will be supporting each other in the parliament. So that is how when two political parties come together to form a government, you call it as a coalition government. Now, when the government has formed, what happens to the person who is the second best? So he forms the opposition party. So remember, you have the universal adult franchise. That means you have the voting rights. You have the voting rights, you go for the elections. Who do you elect? You have to have somebody from the political party. There is no winner. There is no one single winner. You form a coalition party and the others are sitting as opposition parties. So if you have these institutions in your country, it means you are living in a democracy. Let's find out what's next for us. So the word franchise means right to vote. That has to be given by the government of that day. Universal adult franchise is universal is when everybody has the vote. And adult is, it's a government which decides who is an adult. So there are countries where the adult is 16, there are countries where it is 18, where it is 21. In India, it is 18. So if you are an adult, you get the right to vote. It doesn't matter which religion you are coming, it doesn't matter which caste are you coming from, which place, which economic strata are you coming from. So universal adult franchise means every adult gets a voting right. So in India, all the male and female citizens who have attained the minimum prescribed age of 18 are eligible to vote and elect their representative fearlessly, provided that one must not be a declared criminal, bankrupt or of unsound mind. So there are three things if you want to stand for an election you have to keep in mind. You should be not a criminal, you should have money, and the third is that your brain should be absolutely okay. But it's not only in India, but I think in other countries also, even if you are a declared criminal, you still stand for elections and you still win it. So, rule of one man, one vote. So, if I am voting, I have a right to vote only for one candidate. It is not that I like this one also and I like that one also, just like a nursery child that, ma'am, this is also my friend, this is also my friend. So, I want both of them to be the monitor. So, sadly, that doesn't happen in a democratic world. You are one citizen of a country, you get to vote one person. So, rule of one man and one vote. That's a very important element of adult franchise. It makes the government responsible to its people, and it is because the government is based on popular vote. So, the government of whichever party forms the government is kind of scared, kind of afraid that if I do not work the way the citizens want me to work, I may not be elected the next time. So that is why it says that the government is always based on the popular voice or popular vote, because the maximum votes a person gets is the one who is the government. Then the elections are a significant components of a democratic system. No elections, if you don't have elections, you don't express your choices of who you want to be the prime minister, who you want to be your minister. So without elections, where do you go even if you have the right to vote? So who do you vote? So Elections are the most important aspect of a democracy. So in a democratic country, elections are conducted by independent agencies. So here also in India also we have an independent agency called Election Commission of India. So Election Commission of India is a body which settles the dates, which schedules the date of election, the date of voting, the date where the result will be declared, and they are the ones who also declare who is the winner. And this Election Commission of India is not dependent on any government agency. It was made sure in the constitution that we have an independent election body, whereas all the political parties and the citizens of India feel that when we are voting, the vote is going to the candidate that we chose. So it has to be a free and fair election. So for a free and fair election, it's an independent body known as Election Commission of India. So this is the one which conducts the elections for all of us. It is often said no election and no democracy. Obviously, if you're not able to choose who you want, then you are living in a dictatorship. We cannot set up a democratic government without having an independent electoral system. In the absence of elections, no one can think of a government that would work in the interest of the people. Hence, elections assure a good, popular and responsible government. So, if I am a dictator, I don't need your votes. What I need is the power, the strength of the army. So, when I don't need your votes, why am I going to be working for you? So, a stark difference to the democratic government, I need to win. And how am I going to win? Because you are going to be voting for me. So if you vote for me, I am going to do what you want me to do. So that is why it is said if there is no election, there is no democracy. And in a democratic setup, the government of the day would always be responsible towards working for the citizens. Secret ballot system. Now, this is very, very essential in a democratic setup. It's always said that I don't want people to know, I don't want the political party to know who am I voting for. I may be a Congress supporter, I may be a NPF supporter, I may be a BJP supporter. But when I'm voting, I do not want the others to know who I voted for. So if you're a little scared, if you want nobody to know, this is what we have in India, secret ballot system. So when you are voting, if you have come across in pictures, you will always see that there is a kind of wall kind of a thing. It's not a permanent structure which is made, and when you are there inside that cubicle, there should nobody else should be there inside. It is actually a criminal offense if somebody else is also there along with you to vote. So nobody will know who you voted for. So it's a wonderful system of secret ballot system. The ballot used by the voter to cast his vote does not mention. So if you are voting, you don't have to say what your name is, where you are living. You just have to press on the button of the election symbol of that political party. So the voter refuses to say anything to anybody, but he still can vote without thinking what's going to happen if somebody is going to come and say, oh, why did you not vote for me? So a secret ballot system. Now, we discussed that elections are a process of democratic system. If you do not have elections, you are not living in a free world. Elections are kind of a platform where you express your opinions. So through elections, you express your political opinions. So the process of election is, I told you that there is an Election Commission of India. So basically, the process which is there up on the screen for you, this is a process that the Election Commission of India follows through for you. So the first thing that they do is notification of election day. So when, which month, what are the dates of a particular state or the union the elections are going to happen. So they are the first one to announce those elections. After the elections have been announced, the political parties would start selecting those candidates. Once the selection is done, those candidates are going to go to the Election Commission of India, and there they file their nomination paper. Now, when they are sitting with that officer who is from the Election Commission of India, he is the one who's going to scrutinize. So scrutinize means everything should be in place. There should be no column which has not been filled up. So those are the things that that officer is going to scrutinize and see. Once the scrutiny has done, it means that yes, you can stand for the election. Now, allotment of election symbols. So this is very important. When you go to vote, most of the time what we see is the election symbol of a political party. So if my election symbol is maybe a finger or maybe a bangle or something, I would make sure that all that election symbol is visible everywhere. So that allotment of election symbol is also done by the Election Commission of India, and they register to get that election symbol, and that stays forever with that party, and nobody else can take that election symbol from that political party. After the election symbol has been done, then the political party will issue its manifesto. Now, manifesto is kind of a paper where you see what are the policies, what are the things that they will do if you elect them. So, if people say that Article 370 abolishing or implementing, both ways it was a wrong choice. So, what happens is that if a political party has promised that in the election manifesto, it means if you voted for them, you also voted for that Article 370 to either come or go. So election manifesto, when you are going to vote, is an important document that all of us should read, so that when we vote, we know what this political party is going to do for us. Alright, so after the election has been announced, everybody has stood up. Now starts the campaigning, and it's like a festival. Everybody is busy. People are going in trucks and going to vote, and then after the voting is done, the counting of the voting takes place. If you are a winner, the declaration of the result will make you happy. If you lose that election, it is going to be sad state for you, but next time maybe. So these are the political parties in India. Those are the election symbols that I was talking about. So these are the political parties which have their own pressure groups. They have their own ideology. So if you believe in that ideology, you go and vote for them. So if you support those ideologies, that is the party for you. If you support some other political party, that is one for you. So that is what the political party is all about. Now, what is the function of a political party? The first and the primary function is to contest the election. I contest the election, I win, and I can form the government. But before you win the election, make sure the political parties all over, make sure that your contestant, your candidates are capable and honest enough. They are the ones who create public opinion. They are the ones who canvass, who takes those procession of campaigning and make sure that they win the election. After the political party wins, it's the majority vote, and they form the government. And the political party which did not win, they sit in the opposition. So opposition role is also very important, because opposition is the one which keeps the ruling party on toes, keeps them telling that this is wrong and this is how we should do. So the role of the government as well as the opposition party both balances out in a political system where you have democracy. So these are few political parties in India. You can see those election symbols. And what is the role that I just spoke about of opposition party? They control the government on behalf of the people, oppose any measures that goes against the popular interest. Then they can also criticize the wrong policies and actions of the government, and the opposition parties can also pass a no confidence motion. Now remember, if they pass the no confidence motion, it can be only passed if you have those number of MPs with you. Otherwise, it's no use, it's just wasting your time. But the opposition party should always remember to have a criticism which is positive and constructive. Coalition government is, I just told you right in the beginning, when two political parties form a government, that's a coalition government. So we have two coalition governments, I think in Maharashtra and now in Nagaland also. So coalition government is good if you have the same kind of theories, if you have the same kind of programs for the benefit of the general public. Otherwise, coalition government generally fails in India. So, here is your comprehension question. What kind of a government does Nagaland and Maharashtra have? I just told you Maharashtra has a coalition government. I want you to think about what kind of a government now Nagaland has. Because there is no coalition, there is something else that Nagaland has for now. So think about it, read in the newspapers and let me know. So that was your democracy chapter, and I'm glad that we are over and we have finished with all the 3 parts. I do hope that you enjoyed and you learned what is a democratic form of government. So bye-bye for now.